Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to take a moment, certainly at the start, to say I wholeheartedly support this motion. I think it's fantastic when the legislature does the kind of work that we're doing here today and can work together for a common cause. I think it's wonderful. I do want to thank the other speakers who have spoken on this motion. I want to thank the member from Carleton for bringing forward a really needed and important idea forward to this legislature. It was really something to see. To watch the passion coming from the members on both sides of the House and the family history, that the stories that are related is something else. And of course, in the case of the member from Fredericton West Hanwell, his professional pedigree, having served our country, is really, quite something to hear. So it's not lost on me that part of the reason we're here today, having the freedom to democratically debate this motion, is because of the efforts and sacrifice of our Canadian men at Vimy Ridge, as well as other battles from World War I and World War II. They died for our freedom, and we honour their sacrifice when this legislature works together in the best interests of New Brunswickers. So I think that's quite significant and should be mentioned. I should also take the time, Madam Speaker, to say that I'm not a historian. I've never been in the military, but I and all Canadians have been beneficiaries of the sacrifice of the men at Vimy Ridge and by extension, the rest of World War I and World War II. So I've often been in this House and had the honour to speak on different things, but I find this particular motion quite intimidating because I want to do it justice, but I just don't have the pedigree and the background that some of the other members spoke about. So it is my habit to do a bit of research before I get on my feet, and I found a particularly well done piece, and I'm going to take directly from it. It's a website, and it's called warmuseum.ca, and I thought it did a wonderful job of summarizing what these men went through at this battle. So I'm going to take directly from this to take what I think would add to the level of effect of what this battle really meant and how important it was to Canada as a nation. So this was by an author by the name of Tim Cook, and it says, many historians and writers consider the Canadian victory at Vimy a defining moment for Canada, when the country emerged from under the shadow of Britain and felt capable of greatness. Canadian troops also earned a reputation as formidable, effective troops because of the stunning success. But it was a victory at a terrible cost, with more than 10,000 killed and wounded. The Canadian Corps was ordered to seize Vimy Ridge in April 1917, coming up on the 100-year anniversary. Situated in northern France, the heavily fortified 7-kilometer ridge held a commanding view over the Allied lines. The Canadians would be assaulting over an open graveyard, since previous French attacks had failed with over 100,000 casualties. To capture this difficult position, the Canadians would carefully plan and rehearse their attack. And I've read in some other sites, Madam Speaker, this was months and months in the planning, with tunnels being dug and aerial assaults and the land piece all being carefully coordinated. It was quite an operation. To capture this difficult position, the Canadians would carefully plan and rehearse their attack. To provide greater flexibility and firepower in battle, the infantry were given specialist roles as machine gunners, riflemen, and grenade throwers. These same soldiers underwent weeks of training behind the lines, using models to represent the battlefield and new maps crafted from aerial photographs to guide their way. To bring men forward safely for the assault, engineers dug deep tunnels from the rear to the front. Despite this training and preparation, the key to victory would be a devastating artillery barrage that would not only isolate enemy trenches, but provide a moving wall of high explosives and shrapnel to force the Germans to stay in their deep dugouts and away from their machine guns. Chaps, You shall go over exactly like a railroad train, on time, or you shall be annihilated, warned Canadian Corps Commander Sir Julian Byng. In the week leading up to the battle, Canadian and British artillery pounded the enemy positions on the ridge, killing and tormenting defenders. New artillery tactics allowed the gunners to first target, then destroy enemy positions. A nearly limitless supply of artillery shells and the new 106 fuse, which allowed shells to explode on contact as opposed to burying themselves in the ground, facilitated the destruction of hardened defenses and barbed wire. The Canadian infantry would be well supported when it went into battle, with over 1,000 artillery pieces laying down withering, supportive fire. Attacking together for the first time, the 4 Canadian divisions stormed the ridge at 5:30 a.m. on the 9th of April, 1917. More than 15,000 Canadian infantry overran the Germans all along the front. Incredible bravery and discipline allowed the infantry to continue moving forward under heavy fire, even when their officers were killed. So these men continued to move forward when their commanders were lost to battle. They had the courage and the bravery and the clarity of mind to continue to pursue their goal, even against these kind of odds. Absolutely incredible. There were countless acts of sacrifice as Canadians single-handedly charged machine gun nests or forced the surrender of Germans in protective dugouts. So the enemy was well entrenched, had nests of machine guns, and yet our Canadian men still pushed forward. Hill 145, the highest and most important feature of the ridge, and where the Vimy Monument now stands, was captured in a frontal bayonet charge against machine gun positions. 3 more days of costly battle delivered final victory. The Canadian operation was an important success, even if the larger British and French offensive, of which it had been a part, had failed. But it was victory at a heavy cost. 3,598 Canadians were killed and another 7,000 wounded. The capture of Vimy was more than just an important battlefield victory. For the first time, all 4 Canadian divisions attacked together. Men from all regions of Canada were present at the battle. Brigadier General A.E. Ross declared after the war, "In those few minutes, I witnessed the birth of a nation." Vimy became a symbol for the sacrifice of the young Dominion. In 1922, the French government ceded to Canada in perpetuity Vimy Ridge and the land surrounding it. The gleaming white marble and haunting sculptures of the Vimy Memorial, unveiled in 1936, stand as a terrible and poignant reminder of the 11,285 Canadian soldiers killed in France who have no known graves. So, Madam Speaker, that to me just encapsulated the horror that these young men had to go through in order to capture this ridge. And it's something that, you know, I never experienced it. I don't have any family or anybody who was involved in it historically. I don't have that kind of background, but reading that and getting that sense of what these men went through to try to defend what we believe in, our freedom, our democracy, is something, it's a debt we can never repay. So I certainly want to thank all our service members who are here in the gallery, and all Canadian forces, Canadian Armed Forces men and women who have served and who continue to serve to defend our interests. And that will be all for me, Madam Speaker. I will pass the floor over to the member from Fredericton York. Thank you for your time.